Hello, and welcome back to the Jesus Cartel for our Thanksgiving special. I guess we can call it a Thanksgiving special. It is Thanksgiving tomorrow. I wouldn't say the episode is necessarily going to be unique for that reason, but what's been going on with you?
Man, everything is good. It is a special. It really helps my heart a lot.
Here we go.
To hear you call it a Thanksgiving special. I mean, we didn't even write that down, but you're natural. I really think that I have been wearing on you over the last 7 months, with this podcast, and it just seems so natural for you to call this a Thanksgiving special. Man, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I celebrate some things in life. Thanksgiving is one of the holidays that's closer to my heart than most because we did win something at Thanksgiving,
Here we go.
There was a battle that had ensued. I celebrate the Boston Tea Party. There are some moments in life. I'm a big July 4th guy.
Yeah.
But Thanksgiving kind of falls real closely to the 4th of July for me.
There you go. So it is a Thanksgiving special edition of the Jesus Cartel. And we are excited to be here. Man, things are good, We film this on Wednesdays, but we show it on Fridays. So by the time we show it, Mangum will be playing their arch rival, Oak Grove, in one of the biggest games across the whole state. I think there's a 5A game in South Louisiana and this game in North Louisiana that everybody's really looking at. And I hope it lives up to the billing. I hope that Mangum can stay in there with Oak Grove. Oak Grove's got one of the best teams they've had in a long time. And so and Mangum's got the youngest team they've had in a long time, but they've been playing so great. So we'll see how that goes. But, man, I'm looking forward to tomorrow and this whole weekend and stuff.
Yeah, they did play once earlier in the season
against
each other, and Oak Grove did win that game.
By 14.
Oh, wow. So it's pretty close.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns. Okay. And so we had a muff punt by a player that's never fielded a punt before, and that yielded the last score there.
So a real close game.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I love a good rivalry in any facet, and so, to have a local rivalry here is fun. For one to exist. That's one of the things I miss most about living in Central Louisiana. There were so many big schools right around there, and they're all so close that every game that was played locally like that, there was always tension. And, you know each other, you know each other's families, and there's a lot that goes into it. And so, Oak Grove, Mangum, that's kind of the closest real rivalry in Franklin Parish because, all the schools are consolidated within Franklin, and so there's not any real rivalries here anymore. You went to Winsboro, correct?
So, yes, I did. I went to Winsboro when it was 9 schools in the parish, and then 8, and then it consolidated. But one thing I want to say about the rivalry real quick is that with Mangum and Oak Grove, Mangum, and Oak Grove don't like each other. But what's funny is that in a little area, in Mangum, Mangum, Alto, Archibald community, there's either 3 or 4 pastors that are from West Carroll Parish.
Yeah.
So they're from the Oak Grove area. They're now pastoring in Mangum. And successfully, So I think that it's funny because when we play in baseball and football and stuff, hey, there's no love lost at all. I mean, those teams really generally don't like each other, but yet some of the pastors, best pastors in the area are from West Carroll Parish, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, what a small world.
Yeah.
But that is neat. Just as far as the get to know you segment today, since it's a little different timing wise, I'm curious. Do you have big plans? I know that you tend to go over the top holiday wise normally. You forced me to plan a Thanksgiving at Fresh Start against my will. And so what's going on with your people?
So every Thanksgiving, I do go to Fresh Start. So I work at Fresh Start every Thanksgiving. I enjoy doing that because it's my time to get to see the families and stuff. Family visitation is on Saturdays and I'm not there. When they're at church on Sundays, I'm usually really busy with different roles. So Thanksgiving is a time where I can come and eat with the guys. And then I'll usually meet with the guys, then go see the ladies, and then come back with the guys and get to see their families and get to meet them and see their children, see who cooks good and who doesn't cook good. You can tell a lot by a man about the cooks around them, and different things like that. So I enjoy doing that. So I always come to work, around 6:45, 7 o'clock on Thanksgiving. Help get everything going, everything right, and then usually there for lunch with them. And then as soon as we bless the food and get to see all of them, I actually go to my house, and we have Thanksgiving at my house with some people. And you never know who's going to show up there. So sometimes we'll do like a Friendsgiving to where, a lot of different friends come. Sometimes it's mostly just our family. Miss Becky's in charge of that. So tomorrow at probably 1 or 1:30, I'll see who's going to be at my house tomorrow.
Nice.
And then usually after we get through eating, some group of us goes for an afternoon hunt. So it's just kind of tradition that I'll work at Fresh Start, they'll cook the food, I'll cook the turkey and ham while I'm at Fresh Start, I'll bring it, so Daddy's bringing home the meat, they'll have everything else ready to go, we'll eat, and right when everybody starts to fall asleep, then usually we'll go and get on a deer stand somewhere and enjoy our afternoon. Yeah. So that's my big plans for tomorrow.
Yeah, that sounds like good
How
stuff.
about you, Andrew?
I was also planning on working, and then I was told I had to take off, and so I'm taking off now. On Thanksgiving Day, Courtney's family gets together. She's got a really large family, a lot of branches. Her mom's got several sisters. They're all married. They all have kids. Those kids have lots of kids, and so it's a pretty large scale gathering that they have. Usually go over to Mr. Charlie and Miss Debbie's, and just kind of hang out, spend some time together. Eat nothing too crazy. Just it's hard to really do much when you have that many people all in one place. But there's a whole lot of catching up that gets done because it's usually been a while since everybody's been together. Thanksgiving is the furthest probably from any other holiday where people really gather. Where Christmas you just saw each other. Mm-hmm. Easter's not too far from Christmas, but the stretch between Easter and Thanksgiving is a pretty big one. And so trying to figure out who the kids are is always a task there, because that's not the family I grew up with. That's Courtney's family, and so, every few months the kids look so different, and so I'm trying to get reacclimated with them all, and they're all older and doing different stuff, and they've all grown a foot, and so that's kind of the game that happens right away, with Courtney's family, and then we go over to Mr. Richie's mom, and we'll just go visit with them for a little bit, and nothing really out of the ordinary. And then we'll go visit my family this weekend, which is, our Thanksgiving stuff is really no different than any other time we go in when it comes to my family. It's we always meet with usually the same people. Just have a meal, sit down, and spend some time together. My family is very, very low maintenance, and it's super cool to have a family like that when you live far away, because it can be difficult if you've got a really needy family and you're far away from them, because when are you going to visit again? You never come home, all of that. It's a really neat thing about my family is we don't have any of those kind of pressures and stuff, and so that's been really great. And I'm super appreciative to have an understanding family that knows that, hey, I work on Sunday, and I work Monday through Friday, and a lot of times Saturday too. Right. So we're not going to get to come home a lot, and so most of the visits that happen with my family, Courtney takes the kids, and I'm here, and so it's nice every now and then. I probably get to see my family 2 or 3 times a year, maybe. It just depending on the circumstances, and so it is always nice to get to see them, and because those are the people I grew up with. We grew up Sunday dinner every Sunday with the cousins and everybody else, and so. My cousins were closer to siblings to me than, really even my siblings were, because there's such an age gap between us. And so, that's really our plans, just kind of, get together and catch up. Thanksgiving is a catch-up holiday, and so that's going to be good.
Something I thought that was funny when you were talking a while ago and getting together at Charlie and Debbie's and stuff, and you're talking about how many people is going to be there. And I know, because I know most all those people and stuff, but I also know them real well. And even though there's so many people that you would never be able to talk to everybody and never be able to have conversations with everybody and all that, if you weren't there at Aunt Shook's house, she would know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So even though there's an overabundance of people, if there happens to be somebody that would actually ever dare miss, then it would be well documented.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they pay very close attention where everybody is. That family is a family in every sense of the word.
Amen.
It was a very I don't even want to say I've adjusted, because I think that would probably be unfair. I think they would laugh if they heard me say I've adjusted, because I haven't. But they want to know where everybody is. Not just on holidays, by the way. I'm not talking about holidays. I'm talking about it in general. You know what I mean? If you go to the store, they would like to know. And it's not even they're not even being nosy.
Right.
They just keep up with each other. I think your family's kind of like that. Y'all know where each other are. You tell each other every time you go somewhere. And we're just my family's just the opposite. Like, just check in about once a quarter. Let me know that you're breathing and everybody's cool. And so it's and the other thing is, my family's there's like no affection.
Right.
Like, no one really hugs. Like, you can feel like hugs will happen, but you can tell that it's like, this is this is what's socially acceptable right now. We probably need to engage in this. It even feels weird while it's happening for everybody, for both parties, And then in Courtney's family, like, you get a hello hug, you just walked up hug, you get a 15-second break, and then there's a second hug, which is the really like, hey, I'm accepting and embracing the fact that you're here, and I'm thankful that you're here. That follow-up hug happens like 15 seconds later, and that one's the real hug. The first one's a greeting. The second one's like man, I'm glad to see you. And then the goodbyes it's an interesting dynamic. Yeah. And so the first time I really spent any time with their family, I was hugged more than I was my entire life up to that point. And so it's definitely different. And I am trying my best to adjust and accommodate. I believe I've gotten better through the years.
Well, you talked about people knowing where you are and stuff, and it's not being nosy. It's generally, just care, and I relate to that in the sense that, we talk about accountability and, and holding people accountable and stuff. And, people are like, man, I'm grown, or I'm this or whatever, and I always tell them, I've never left laying on my couch or sitting in my recliner watching TV and then got up and got in my truck and went somewhere without telling everybody in the house where I'm going. Mm-hmm. And people find that weird, but I don't want people looking for me. I don't want them wondering where I'm at.
Sure.
Not just physically, but in life, That's the reason why I text y'all if I'm going to be more than 5 minutes late for work, I like that. I don't, and it's not because, I don't even know if they even care, but, but I always tell people that I would never get up, go get in my truck and go somewhere without telling everybody where I'm at. I don't even, most of the time, get up and go use the bathroom without announcing to everybody, hey, Daddy's supposed to go potty, I just want y'all to know I'm going to be in here, and this is where I'm going to be at. You don't have to come looking for me. I'm okay, and this is where I'm going to be at. So, I enjoy that side, Now, if it gets to where people are just being nosy and stuff and they just want to know your every move, it's different. But just people generally caring about you and caring about what's going on in life and not just making casual conversation. But that's something pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing. And there is I don't want to say a dark side to it, because that's not what I mean at all. But as a person who didn't come from a family like that and stepped into a family like that, something that was really important for me to learn, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is because we may have a listener that might be in a situation like this, is that don't feel like you have to explain everything. You can just say where you are without having to explain why you are where you are.
There you go.
Because if you're answering a question, you can just answer the question without giving an explanation of what that answer is. And a lot of times there can be a social pressure for like, well, why why is he there and not here? You know what I mean? It's like, I love you. I told you where I was. I don't have to explain everything about everything I'm doing because, and that's not trying to be rude. It's just the reality of like for me, and this is just for me specifically, I'm a pastor. I'm usually dealing with people's personal matters. And that's not something I feel, important to explain. And even if that wasn't the case, I just don't get caught up in the, like, feeling like you're always on the defensive because they probably don't mean anything by it. It's just kind of the status quo for how they've always handled business. Oh, where are you? What are you doing there? For me, when I heard, oh, what is he doing there? In my mind, it was like with an accusatory, like, this is directed at me, it's directed negatively, they don't approve of what I'm doing, they're frustrated and it's like, it's probably not even like that. I'm probably reading way too much into that. And I think in a lot of situations early on, I found myself wanting to be, like, having a battle, being offended over something that probably didn't really have any negative connotation attached to it. That's just the nature of how they work. Where is he? What's he doing? You know what I mean? Like, and for me, I was like, why do I have to constantly explain myself? And it was just me.
But now you know that with that particular family, if that's who we're talking about, they just generally care.
Yeah, they're just
more
asking.
than most. They're
just asking.
Yeah. And so and I mean, it's a good conversation because people answer questions just differently anyhow. I can ask you, or I can tell you, hey man, that's a nice shirt.
Sure.
The proper response is thank you.
Yeah.
But very few times are you going to get thank you. You're going to get something like, oh man, I've had this shirt forever. Or you're going to get, yeah man, I bought this shirt, but man, it was only $5 because I got it on sale. Or something like that. They're always going to give you some explanation, and people are used to that. But then there's other people just going to say thank you. I've tried to learn that more over the years of answering questions simpler than what I normally do. Yeah. And then we get something on this podcast and we talk about what we're doing for Thanksgiving for an hour, Yeah. But, sometimes, especially if somebody's giving you a compliment on something, the proper response is thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think that, because you and I didn't have any plans of talking about any of this, but I think we're actually accidentally wandering into a really good topic.
There you go.
Yeah, in addition, what you're saying, if you tell me nice shirt, for me, I probably am the guy. It's like, okay, cool, whatever. You know what I mean? But a lot of people, what I've noticed, if you say nice shirt, their thought, they start to dig in their mind of like, he doesn't like the way I normally dress. He told me nice shirt because
he didn't like yesterday's.
Yeah, he doesn't like how I normally dress. I got a collar on today. And now I get a nice shirt, and it's like, this is him trying to tell me that this is how I'm supposed to be dressing. You know what I mean? And so it's like you get into this situation where I was actually messing with Courtney about that this morning. She was holding the baby, and she was like, man, I like what you're wearing today. And I was just like, I looked at the baby, and I said, this is mom trying to tell me that I dress like a bum most of the time. And we all just laughed, had a good laugh about it. But while I was joking, there's a lot of people that really like interact with the world that way, and it makes it very difficult. They stress themselves out because they're always reading so deep into everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes, man, simple things are just simple things. And I think that's why I said we were kind of wandering into a unique topic that was a good topic is how common of a thought process is it that a man isn't going to get along with his in-laws? It's just not going to happen, Like, that's always a stressor before a person gets married is people are like, oh, man, good luck with your in-law. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's usually not because the in-laws are crazy. It's usually just because it's like people recognize, like, hey, you and them are very different. And that, to me, is the problem. And I don't necessarily want to say problem. That's what's not being addressed, is that you see the world one way. They see the world a different way. Yeah. You see their daughter one way. They see their daughter a different way. And so, you're approaching solutions from a totally different place. And, what doesn't happen a lot of times, and we've experienced some of these things over the years for sure. I'm not saying anything that anybody would be upset with, me saying. But, there's been difficulties in how some situations have been handled over the years, but it was always for the same reason. It was always because I wasn't able to see things the way they were seeing them, and they weren't able to see things the way that I was seeing them. And probably neither of us really tried. We just stood strong on what we saw ourselves. And I think that it would just go, it goes a long way to try to understand a person, and to really develop those relationships and things. That's what allows people to get along well. I think that you and I get along well because I understand you. I can't say fully, but I understand you very well, and you have a real strong understanding of who I am, what are my values, where do I come from, and how. And this is a really important thing that not a lot of people talk about, and I think that this is the one that gets left out that hurts everybody. How did I arrive at those values?
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And that's something that we've been able to talk about on this podcast a good bit. Even corporate holidays.
Sure.
You have a very good reason why you don't celebrate corporate holidays the way other people do. And if I was in your shoes being raised that way, I would see it the same exact way.
Sure.
But if I don't take enough time to understand that, I'm just like, oh, man, Andrew's just a Scrooge, then I think, hey, but because you don't take the time to understand from that point of view. Because everybody sees things different. It's just like you said about the nice shirt thing. If I tell somebody nice shirt, it's because I saw a shirt and I thought it was nice and I told them.
Yeah. Real complicated.
That's it. That's it. And it may, if I thought real hard about it, I may think, okay, would they like me to tell them nice shirt, seeing how I think that it's a nice shirt? Mm-hmm. And if I say, yeah, he probably could, then I'll tell you nice shirt. You know what I'm saying? That might be the most that I think about. But I would never tell you nice shirt because I didn't like the one yesterday. And I would never tell you nice shirt because and not really like your shirt. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do that just to make you feel better about yourself. But so many people think that people think way more than they normally do. So me, for instance, those kind of things, just casual things like that, I'm not overthinking it. I'm thinking, man, that dude told me nice shirt. He must like my shirt.
Yeah.
I'm telling him thank you or whatever. But other things in life, I'm always like one move ahead. Thinking, all right, so in this scenario, this is how we're going to do. But in this scenario, we would do that. And so I always think ahead. But as far as casual conversations with friends and people and stuff, man, I'm thinking exactly what I said.
Yeah.
Nothing more and nothing less. But I don't think that everybody's that way. They can't be. Because if everybody was that way, they would assume everybody else is that way. Mm-hmm. But they're not. Because I think there's a bigger pool of people that's like, I wonder what he meant by that.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm not that guy. Yep. I don't think that way, and I don't speak that way.
Sure.
But I do think the bigger point here is that if you spend time understanding someone and why they think a certain way, it means so much to that person that you took the time. It means a lot to you because you understand that they're not just being narrow-minded or whatever. And then it also means a lot whether you end up agreeing with them or not. At least you took the time to understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the reason why I've liked that on here you've said several times, hey, if you disagree with us on something, come take me to lunch.
Yeah.
Let's go eat lunch and let's talk about it. And you've heard me talk, so now let me listen to you.
Sure.
So you've made an open invitation several times to anybody listening that, hey, you've heard my thoughts on this topic. Mm-hmm. If you disagree, let's go buy lunch. I'll buy your lunch, and I'll let you talk the whole time and tell me why you disagree.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah, and no one loses in that case. Not with me, because I'm not going to try to argue you down in the restaurant. Mm-hmm. For me, it's about gaining perspective. And if somebody sees something so drastically different than me that it's causing them like real tension within themselves, then either A, there's some perspective that I'm missing for how they see a situation, which is going to give me a more rounded understanding of my subject matter after hearing them, or B, I'm going to recognize, and this is going to sound horrible, but you'll understand, I'm going to recognize they have a genuine need for counseling, in which case I can be of a ton of assistance. And, you know, because it's usually one of those things. It's either I lack perspective and I was wrong in an area, which happens, you know, or B, I nailed it and they've got some sort of deep hurt surrounding this thing that they've not had the opportunity to talk about, not in a way where they really feel heard. And so, you know, that's a win-win in my book.
It is, because I love to listen.
Yeah.
What I don't like to do is argue. You know, if somebody says something and then I respond, and then if they respond negatively to what I've said, 95% of the time I quit speaking. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that I agree. It just means that I'm finished. Mm-hmm. Now, they've already got to speak twice. I've only got to speak once, but my second time probably won't be very nice. So I just don't speak.
Yeah.
And that's just something that I do. So there's a lot of times, you know, where people are like, you know, da-da-da-da, or if I say, hey, man, will you do this? And if they say, well, I say, okay. Mm-hmm. Now, I still wanted it done, but they argue with me. And because they argue with me, my next response would be, well, I want you to do it anyhow.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty direct and usually something that I really don't want to do. So usually I'll just walk out of the room, or I'll drop it. Why? Because I don't like confrontation. It's not that I'm scared of it. I just think that it kind of hurts relationships more than what people think sometimes. So if somebody has heard us on the podcast and wants to come talk to us about something, I'll let them do like 90% of the talking.
Sure.
You know, pretty much I'm already talked out on the topic probably, you know. Yeah. And now, you know, like you said, if they need counsel, I sure don't mind giving them the counsel. Mm-hmm. But really only if they ask for it.
Yeah.
You know.
I understand.
And so I think that's all pretty cool.
I exist at 3 levels, you know, 1, 5, and 10, right? 90% of the time I'm at a 1, you know. And now this is not just when things are going smooth. I exist at a 1 90% of the times when things are not going smooth. I'm very, very calm. I don't get flustered easy. I don't panic. That's actually something we've been messing with Larry Adams about lately, saying, hey, look, man, don't panic. Don't panic.
Down.
Yeah, everybody calm down, you know. And he got a real kick out of it. He's been saying it a lot lately.
He's either 0 or 60.
Yeah. And so, you know, 90% of the time I'm at 1. Maybe, or 95% of the time I'm at 1. Maybe 4% of the time I'm at 5. If I'm at 5, I'm not laughing, because most of the time I am. Most of the time I'm laughing, I'm smiling. It's very easy to tell that I'm in a good mood, and I always am. When I'm at 5, I'm not laughing, I'm not smiling, I'm speaking very directly. I'm not angry, I'm not loud, I'm just very direct. And that I get in that mode when something needed to get done that didn't get done. Right. And now it's like we're at the time this has to be done now. And the reason I switched to 5 at that point is so that everyone is clear that this is an immediate, this is we are at an immediate, you know, this has to be fixed right now. We're not joking. Nobody's laughing. Nobody's, you know, and it's so easy to tell the difference in my 1 and my 5. Like, no one is ever confused. Yeah. If I walk in at a 5, everybody's like, okay, Andrew needs this done. Let's get it done, because I don't ever ask people for stuff. Usually I'll do it myself if it doesn't get done. If I ask something to be done, I'll go do it behind you if you didn't get it done, because I find that to be an effective tool for you to learn later to say, oh, man, he wasn't supposed to have to do that, and he did. Like, they'll usually come to you and be like, hey, look, I dropped the ball there, and you can learn and grow from that moment. So if you got to get to 5, it's direct. It's, hey, look, this was supposed to get done. This did not get done. These are my expectations. Make this happen. And we're not having a conversation. It's just a directive. Don't have to do that very often. When we do, it is. Now, 10 is when the arguments happen. I don't argue. If I get to 10, I'm at the point where someone who is inside the building is now you will be removed from the building. That's my 10. Now, I don't have an argument stage. A lot of people do. A lot of people want to shout back and forth. Yeah. I don't. Right. I go 1, I go 5. Hey, man, you need to get out of here. and then we're at 10. You know what I mean? There is no shouting back and forth. You didn't leave. We're at 10. Now you're being removed. And so, I don't argue at all. I'm not interested in it. No. I don't find it to be beneficial. And the only reason I'm at 10 is because I believe someone's safety is in jeopardy.
Yep.
You know, that's when I get to 10.
Yeah, that I just, I've said it before and, say it again. One of the main reasons why I'm so positive is because I'm not a good negative person.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy that can just gripe and cuss and yell and fuss, and that's just not me. And so we're going to be who we are, and if I can't be who I am, I'll just remove myself from the situation, altogether. Now, if somebody's safety is in there, I'll remove that person that's making them unsafe. But I would rather just walk to another room, and I'll probably never think about it again, But this is good conversation because, some people, man, their families and stuff, it can be difficult. I tell people all the time, man, if being around your mom longer than 10 minutes is a trigger for you, then be with your mom like 7 minutes at a time. Don't even chance it. Hey, if you got certain family members that drive you and this and that, hey, just don't hang out with them very much. Just be very casual with them. Say, hey, love on them, like Jesus, but you don't have to put yourself in a bad situation. You can love people from afar. You don't, have to put yourself in there, because what you don't want to do is get out of character.
Agreed.
You don't want to get out of character. You don't want to get out of God's will. You don't want to, to lose it and have to apologize and all that. And, I hate to apologize. So I just try real hard to not do what it takes to apologize.
Yep.
Because I will apologize at any point where I feel like I need to. So I try to stay out of the need to, and do that. So anyhow, man, just getting to know people, I think, is a good thing to understand, man. There's so many people that, Annalise, like we've talked about on here, she's getting ready to move to Dallas. And, I was more concerned about where you're going to work, where you're going to live, how safe it is, that kind of stuff. And now it's time to, look at a church. We're going to be there this weekend. We want to be able to go to a church with her. Is that this weekend? Yeah,
Thanksgiving weekend?
That is, yeah. So it is this weekend. And so we're going to be with her this weekend. We want to go to a church, and there was a church, I think, that you and her had talked about, if I remember correctly, and she had told me about the church. And so she sent me a link. I looked it up, and then they have a young people's group, I think, on Tuesdays or something.
Yeah.
And so she sent me a link to the church, and she sent me a link to the young people's group. Well, when I was scrolling through the young people's group, just kind of scrolling through that top page, all of a sudden there was a topic that was like, how do we feel about LGBTQ plus in this group?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, now that's interesting, on the front page of this deal. Mm-hmm. They are in a city.
Yeah.
That's intriguing. I'd like to know how they feel about that. And then the next one was another difficult question.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. And the next one was really another really difficult. I don't remember what it was, but it was like 3 in a row.
Yeah.
And then the third or the fourth one wasn't maybe that difficult as far as edgy like that. But as far as me and my Christian walk, it was very important to me.
Yeah.
How they felt in that area.
Sure.
And so I took the time, even though I didn't really have it, to read all 3 or 4 of those articles, and was very impressed with how they handled all 4 aspects of that.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter if I agreed with it or not. I was very impressed with how they handled the question.
Yeah.
But I was also very impressed that they didn't shy away from it either.
Sure.
And none of their answers were down the middle.
Yeah.
They were very diplomatic, but you knew where they stood.
Sure.
And I really enjoyed reading that article and those articles, and I hadn't even got to tell Annalisa yet, but it sounds like a great church to try.
Yeah.
Because they were not judging in any way. They weren't, argumentative in any way, but you knew where they stood.
Yeah.
And it was written with grace and love and mercy and biblical truth.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of scripture reference. I think every paragraph had a scripture reference. In all of it, if I remember correctly, which I love, because it's not so opinionated, But I guess where I'm going with that is that it was just good communication, and you and I enjoy good communication.
Absolutely.
We enjoy when somebody knows how to communicate, when somebody wants to communicate, when somebody wants to learn. And I was able to learn a lot about the leaders in that church just by reading those articles.
Oh, for sure.
So, just good communication.
Yeah, and that's a big deal. I think about like talk show, like mainstream talk shows and stuff like that will occasionally have a mega church pastor on, stuff like that. And I remember watching an interview one time, and I was like, this particular pastor, I was curious, like, how's he going to do on a stage like this? So he sits down, and they're like, tell us how you feel about homosexuality. I mean, he's been in the chair 3 seconds, and he was like, really? We're going right there. And the host was just like, well, what did you expect? You know what I mean? And it's just like, I understand the temptation that there is to just avoid the subject until you have to confront it.
Right.
And so I have a huge respect and appreciation for that church for just putting that information out there like that, because the easier route would be don't say anything about it.
Yeah.
Let them come, and if they ever ask, we'll address it. They probably won't ask because it's a big church, big city.
We'll the best we can.
Yeah.
Right.
But to just put it out there like that and make your values known, man, I think that's a big deal. It's very admirable, in my opinion. And, you're talking about, listening and stuff like that. And something so crucial when you're having a conversation with anybody is listen to understand. Don't listen to respond. Mm-hmm. And that's like normally what happens. You're having a conversation with somebody today, you're telling them a story, and they're just going, yep. And what it is they've already formulated how they're going to respond in their head, and they're waiting on you to get done so they can say their thing. And that's not good communication, you know what I mean? And so, like, if I catch myself doing that, because it is a temptation that happens at all times. I'm not saying, like, I'm immune to that. But I have to, like, force myself to shelf my thoughts, because I'll start to form opinions in the middle of people talking. I'm like, okay, just listen. We'll talk afterwards, and and that's kind of the mindset of like, I had something good, but I lost it, and people are so disappointed. So they're trying not to lose that strong thought. But the deal is if you try so hard to keep that strong thought, but failed to listen to the rest of what they had to say, they can see you not listening.
Yep.
It's very easy to tell when somebody's actually not paying attention to what you're saying. And at that point, no matter how good whatever you have to say is, I don't care to hear it because you weren't listening to me. And so you're not really invested in whatever it is I wanted to talk about. And so
I try really, really hard not to do that because I really don't like it when other people do it.
Yeah.
And there's a couple people that are around us that do that real often. Mm-hmm. And I can tell it as soon as they quit listening to me and start thinking about what they're saying, I can hear it.
Yeah.
So what I've started doing is I just quit my story. Mid-sentence.
That'll do it.
Mid-sentence. When I see that they're thinking about what they want to say or whatever, then I just quit my sentence, and it never fails. They respond the same exact way that they would have if I finished out my thought.
Yeah.
Because they've already thought about what they're going to say. And it's the same way if somebody speaks over me. I just let them do it, and then I quit talking.
Yeah.
So if I'm saying something, they speak over me, and they do it, then I just have no more opinions.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a butt about it. I don't get offended about it, whatever. I'm just not going to go on the back and forth. I'm not going to get caught in those things very often at all. Sure. And if I do get caught in the back and forth and this and that, it makes me feel so bad later that I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
So if I'm talking and somebody else overspeaks or this, I'm done. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that I'm mad. It doesn't mean that I'm upset. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means I'm not going to be that person. You know, some people feel better when they feel like, well, I overrode somebody and talked over them and louder than them, and so now my point is going to be, I feel right the opposite.
Yeah.
I feel disrespected. I quit listening to what you have to say, and I really don't have anything else to say.
Sure.
You know, it doesn't mean that we can't be friends and all that. It just means that you cared more about getting your opinion out than you did listening and trying to understand mine. So, hey, you got heard.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you. Good job.
Yeah. And that's you know, kind of what I was talking about earlier. You know, that's people trying to get me from 1 to go to 4. I don't go to 4.
Right.
You know, like we're not going to go to 4. If you can't hear me at 1, we don't have to talk. And you know, I understand what you're saying. I think a lot of people would be like, oh yeah, he's throwing a fit. It's like, no, I understand if my input is not valuable, let's not anybody waste our time here.
That's it.
You know, it's okay. Like, you don't have to value. There is no clause in the world that says you owe Andrew Scull any respect. I won't even say that I've done anything to deserve respect. And everything I've accomplished in life on the grand scale of things, so minimal, you don't owe me respect. And if you don't want to give it to me, that's fine. But I participate in relationships where I'm respected.
Amen.
Those are just the ones I choose to participate in. And so now I'm not throwing a fit if we don't have that kind of relationship. That's okay. I don't need a relationship with you. I'd love one, but I don't need it. You know, it's not going to change the way my day goes. You know, we can make each other's day better, but I'm not going to let you make my day worse. And so, you know, that just kind of is what it is. And to me, it's more respectful for me not to waste your time.
Right.
If you don't really want to know what I have to say, that's okay. Yeah. I'm not so pious that I think that I'm so important and you have to hear me.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So this would be a great segue into our original question for the day.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you thankful for, Clay?
So, man, hey, I love it. So, man, I'm thankful for everything. I'm thankful for my family, my friends, my relationships, my job, my ministry. Man, I'm thankful for it all. You know, those that know me, I'm married to the best woman God ever made. I have the best children in the world. Man, I get to minister to people in a way that very few people get to. I get to participate on this great podcast and everything. But the thing, and I know what you're going to say, you know, as soon as I start, you're like, man, that dude gave the Christian answer again. But the thing that I'm the most thankful for is that God doesn't leave us at salvation.
Yeah.
And I'm going to share a message with the guys tomorrow for Thanksgiving along those lines, I feel like, because it's so great to get saved. It's so great to come to the Lord. It's so great to be added to the kingdom of God. And you don't have to clean yourself up. You just come straight to Christ. He takes you just the way you are. But I'm the most thankful that he loves us so much that he doesn't leave us that way. I'm so thankful for who I am today versus who I was 27 years ago. So thankful for who I am today versus 15 years ago and 10 years ago and those kind of things. And, man, I'm thankful that I'm a person that people can depend on. I'm thankful that I'm going to be on time, that people don't have to worry about where Daddy is, that, you know, when they fill out the little cards and drop it in the box for people, you know, that you want to pray for to see at church and stuff, that my name's never been in one of those boxes. You know, my family members never had to say, man, that Clay Russell, man, if we could ever just get him to church, if we could just ever, you know, get him to come to Christ, you know. And man, I'm thankful that, you know, I'm somebody that people can depend on, that people can trust, that people can rely on. And it wouldn't be that way if all I did was get saved.
Sure.
It wouldn't be that way just because I come to Christ. It wouldn't be that way just because I'm not going to burn in hell. So I'm most thankful for the transformation that I see not just happen in my life, but everybody's life. I'm the most thankful that we're being transformed into the image of Christ. So there's my Christianese answer, but it's really my legitimate thought.
The temptation to just sit here for 60 seconds and just stare at you in disgust is at an all-time high.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming.
I'm thankful for Samuel Colt. You always.
Who is Samuel Colt?
Oh my goodness. Google it. I understand what you're saying. It can't be understated. You know, a lot has happened between salvation and now in my life. And if it would have just stopped at the point that I was saved, I'd still not be a good husband. I'd not be a good father. I'd not be a good man. I wouldn't be successful. Probably wouldn't be able to pay my bills. Right. You know, like there's a lot of things that the Lord has continued to develop in me post salvation, and yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying. And consistency is a huge thing, you know, and you are extremely consistent. As a matter of fact, we've talked about it a couple of times throughout this podcast. I called you the other day worried about where you were.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you weren't where I thought you were supposed to be. And so,
and I said it, but I said the wrong thing.
Yeah, and so we talked on the phone, and he told me where he was going to be and when, and I understood it one way, and he meant it another way. And so, like 2 hours had passed, and I hadn't seen him, and so I called him. I was like, "Are you all right?" You know, and yeah, it was just a misunderstanding. But that's what you get with consistency. Right. You know, when you're if you weren't consistent, I would have never called you. You could have been in a ditch somewhere, and we'd have found out in a few days. You know, right. And so now it's a big deal. I put 5 things that I was thankful for that maybe are worded a little different than normal, because, you know, I think that generally we're all kind of thankful for some of the same stuff. But there are some specifics that I'm especially thankful for that I do want to make mention of. The first thing I'm super thankful for is the access that we have to information nowadays. The ability to continue learning so easily. Amen. You know, I can't imagine how difficult it must have been to learn, you know, in earlier times where you had to be under a teacher, you had to trust that this teacher was correct, and then, you know, you just weren't exposed to a lot of information. So, you know, I think it's such a blessing to have such access to information, both scripturally and non-scripturally, you know, information about health and wellness, and information about how to, you know, increase your ability to provide for your family, information about how to understand scriptures that you know seem confusing to you, don't really make a lot of sense. You know, I can just Google the context of that verse, and it'll give me kind of a synopsis of what was happening. Things like that have changed my life. I get smarter every day. It's not a joke. I intentionally every single day I spend at least 1 or 2 hours seeking knowledge in a different area of my life. And so I'm extremely intentional about it, and it continues to change and refine me into a more holistic version of who I believe Jesus was. Because, you know, that's the things I'm seeking to learn is how to be more like him. And not just scripturally, while true, but also, you know, Jesus would have been someone who took care of himself. Mm-hmm. Jesus would have been somebody that provided for his people. You know, if he was a father and was raising kids, he would have been one that provided well. And so I'm able to become more disciplined because of the access I have to information. I'm extremely thankful for that. You know, I think we have a lot of qualms and issues with the access we have to information, and there are some bad, you know, aspects to that for a lot of people. But for me, since I've really come to know the Lord, it's been a blessing. It's been a huge blessing. The second thing I'm thankful for is a community that has values. This local community here, man, they have gotten, I've watched them get behind so many good things, and you just don't have that everywhere. You just don't. And I'm thankful to be a part of it, and to be around it, and to have such an overwhelming amount of support, not just for, you know, the things that we're participating in, but I see so many other things like that around, and that is a massive deal. I'm thankful for friends that never settle. I'm thankful to be surrounded by people who are constantly pushing for excellence. They push me to be better, because I don't want to get left behind. You know, and so I have a community of people that just drives me forward. I am thankful for a wife that is teachable. One of the biggest, you know, sitcom conversations that you'll have on television is how dumb the husband is and how stubborn the wife is. And that's not the dynamic of our family. And I have a wife that is extremely graceful and teachable and constantly striving to be a biblical model wife, and on her own, And so I, again, cannot overstate how much of a blessing that is, because I have firsthand information about thousands of marriages, and I know that that's not common. And so just extremely blessed by that. And then the last thing is I'm thankful for children that love deeply, not just us, but they love people. They care about people, and it is all over them. The way that their heart moves for causes and families and those that are hurting and people that they have relationships with. I mean, you can just see the love they have for people all over them. And in a world where bad news is more and more prevalent, and it'd be so much easier to let an iPad raise my kids, that we have intentionally loved our children and raised our children in a way where they love people the way that Jesus loves people, and that's what they see when they see people. And I'm so thankful for that. And it has impacted our family and will continue to impact our family. And my hope is that out of all the things that the Lord does through me in my life, that the greatest thing that I ever accomplish is raising those children to be better at looking like Jesus than I could have ever dreamed of being. And that they would just continue to take all of this forward in a bigger way. And so far, we're absolutely on that path. And I enjoy the journey. I enjoy the process of becoming better as a family and becoming more efficient. I was talking to somebody about that the other day. I think it was Brian Inlow. I work out every day, and I hate it every day. I never enjoyed the process, but I enjoy results, and I enjoy effectiveness enough to be willing to repeatedly step into that process. Raising kids, being a husband, these are not things that are always filled with joy. Sometimes they're very hard. There were some situations I dealt with yesterday with one of my kids. It was very difficult. I didn't enjoy it at all. But it was necessary to produce the kind of character she needs to carry the calling that's going to be on her life. And there's always an easier way to do everything. It doesn't mean it's the right way. And so I would just encourage people that if you want the kind of life that you can look at and genuinely be thankful for, it's going to require some work and effort on the front end. The blessings of God very rarely come just because hands are open. It's not that he can't deliver blessing that way. He absolutely can. However, he usually chooses to do it in a way that builds something within you that you can carry even when that blessing is gone. When he just gives a man bread, when the bread is gone, right, there's nothing left. But if he teaches you how to make bread, then he has something to carry with him when the bread is no longer there. And I have seen God, instead of just placing things in my open hand, giving me character and perseverance and discipline and blessing, so that I could continue to walk in blessing even when the supernatural is maybe not as prevalent. But he has now produced something supernatural in me that can be repeated. And I'm super thankful for that.
Amen. Look, we hope that y'all are all having a great Thanksgiving. We hope that y'all are all growing in the Lord and stuff. But hey, when this podcast comes out, shoot us some comments, about things that you're thankful for, man. We'd like to hear from you and hear what you're thankful for and what God's doing in your life, and how things are going in your life, and it doesn't always have to be the big things. It can be the little things, it can be the weather, it can be, whatever it is. But hey, look, we appreciate y'all getting on here with us. We don't take it for granted. Y'all could do anything with your time, but you're taking the time to listen to us, and we appreciate that.
Yep. I'm good if you're good.
I'm good.
All right. Love you guys.
See y'all next time.